So many people have been telling me to try Linux after I switched to macOS from Windows. So I'm gonna give it a try and see what the process is like for an average user. Let's get into it. Now, this whole world of Linux can be very technical, which is kind of a barrier of entry for the average user who isn't very deep into tech things. As for me, I'm not somebody with an IT background or anything, but I obviously do have experience with tech and dabbling with operating systems. But the last time I dealt with Linux was like 2015 or something, and it's been a while. I've definitely forgotten everything, so with this video, I kind of want to just simplify things, see it through the lens of an average user, and see what the process is like. So, let's get started. Alright, so firstly, it's not as simple of a choice with Linux as it is with macOS or with Windows 11. There are just so many different variations of Linux. Without getting too deep into things like kernel, GNU, or GNU, basically just think of it kind of like Android. There are so many different types or skins or flavors of Android, like with OnePlus and their Oxygen OS version of Android, or Samsung with their One UI version of Android. Likewise, there are so many different distributions of Linux, also known as distros, that have different designs, functionality, and more. Today, the version of Linux that I'm testing out is called Linux Mint. Apparently, based on some suggestions, this is the version to check out for most beginners because of its ease of use. Not all distros are easy for beginners. There could be troubleshooting, there could be, driver things that you have to get, and various other things that go along with it. So, I don't know, maybe this might be a good, safe bet to get into. We'll see. Let's find out. Okay, so before you do anything, a good rule of thumb is to always back up your data, just in case something happens. Another good rule of thumb is to hit subscribe and like this video because why not? I'm trying to grow the channel. Any support would be great. Anyway, I didn't actually install anything right away because as I was reading, this version can be put on a USB and tested without installing anything first. Obviously, I am gonna install it in a little bit, but it's just great because you can test it without having any of the risks that goes with installing it. All I did was get the install file that I wanted, which was Mint Cinnamon. This is the aesthetic version of Linux Mint. Then there are two others that you can pick from. One is just a very lightweight version that will probably run better on older hardware, and one that's kind of an in-between of Cinnamon and the lightweight one. The Cinnamon keeps reminding me of cinnamon rolls for some reason. But after getting Cinnamon, you can't just take the file, stick it into a USB, and call it a day. You first need a program like Rufus so that it can put it onto the USB properly so that your computer will actually boot into it. So I did just that. Here were my settings, and it was done. It then went straight into my computer where I had to go into BIOS to change the boot order of the computer so it knows to go into the USB first instead of Windows. Then you save and exit, and boom, we're in. Now, initial thoughts, it's very similar to Windows in the way that it looks. There's a taskbar, you've got sort of like a Windows 7 style start menu essentially, but it looks clean, it looks simple, I kind of like it. There's nothing unnecessary or in your face, no bloatware, kind of like the other OS. Even the taskbar is minimal and you've only got your file manager, your Firefox, and terminal for commands and stuff. One thing I am surprised about is how good it runs out the box for being off of a USB. I also thought for some reason that if it's being run off a USB, it might not have some Wi-Fi drivers or display drivers or something like that, but no, I had pretty much all of it out the box. If what I said didn't make sense, then basically every device uses different components inside it, so the OS needs drivers to know how to talk to all these different components. So surprising to me that it had all this support, yes, but it's great. Anyway, let's install it now. Right, so if I wanted to install it, then I would just go through this installer and I'd be good. But that would erase the disk and basically everything with it and replacing it with Linux. But I want to be able to have the option between Windows and Linux, just in case Linux didn't have something that I want, like Fortnite. Not that I play Fortnite or anything, but I just found that out because Fortnite has some anti-cheat requirements, and so that's why it's not compatible with Linux. But we'll talk more about that in a bit. So anyways, this process of installing it to be able to dual boot from Windows and Linux is a little bit technical, especially for the average person, to the point where I think people might be a little bit scared of it. They might be thinking, they might mess something up, so why risk it? Even me, to be safe, I just followed this video over here and it was pretty helpful. And actually, by the way, it didn't install the first couple times that I tried. Because it turns out the computer's secure boot was on, and even though technically you should be able to install Linux Mint while having secure boot on, for some reason, it just didn't work. So I turned it off and then it actually worked. So you can kind of see why this process of installing it to dual boot will kind of influence my thoughts of Linux and if the average person can switch to it. Alright, so after installing it, I use it some more, first with gaming. I installed Minecraft, of course, which has native support. But like I mentioned before, there are some games that don't have native support, like Fortnite. Now, to be honest, I don't really game that much. I just don't have any time. I'm either working or I'm trying to produce videos for YouTube. But a game that I used to play a bunch when it came out is Battlefield 6, which also doesn't have support for Linux because of anti-cheat. One thing I did find useful is this website, which has some game compatibility which you can check out. But the next thing I tried doing was getting Premiere Pro and After Effects, because it's quite literally my job, photo and video, so the computer that I use needs to be able to run these applications. But guess what? I can't get it on Linux either. If I wanted to, I would have to get DaVinci Resolve, which has support, and it's not a bad thing to switch to Resolve. Actually, it's a very powerful software as well. It's just that when you have projects due and deadlines, learning a new software isn't actually the most practical thing to do. So this is where dual boot into Windows comes in handy for the things that aren't on Linux that I need. Other than that though, browsing and stuff has been very snappy. I'm liking the UI and I'm actually very excited to, get into it more. Okay, do I think the average user can switch to Linux? No. That is, if the average person is somebody like my parents, for example, or someone that doesn't really know too much about tech. See, I don't think they would be able to go and make a bootable USB with Linux, then go into the BIOS, boot into that USB, install, and troubleshoot if anything goes wrong with the install. Yeah, I don't think my parents can do that, not without some help at least. So if there's an average person and they have some help from maybe a more tech-inclined son or somebody, then probably yeah. That being said, if the average user is someone like me or somebody who is into tech or at least willing to learn, then yes, I do think they can switch. It's fairly straightforward in that context. But should the average person switch? Is there any benefit to this? To that, yeah, I think there is a benefit to this. It's a lighter OS, it feels snappier, and you don't have to deal with any, nonsense like Copilot, bloatware, stuff like that. And not to mention huge customizability and options, there's just a lot of freedom essentially. Obviously though, compatibility on software is a big reason on if you should switch, but that just depends on the person though. And if they can do dual boot, then it's fine, I guess. In any case, this video was more about the process of getting into it, installing it through the lens of an average user. Now I'm gonna actually spend time with it much longer, maybe a month or two, and then I'll make a video on how the switch actually went. Obviously, I can't fully switch, but we'll see where this ties into my workflow. I'll even play around with it more, maybe get some new desktop environments as suggested in previous videos, really just, mess around with it basically. So yeah, if you want to see that video, then definitely hit subscribe. And if you have any questions or suggestions, then feel free to leave it in the comments below. As always though, if you like this video, then like it. And if you loved it, then subscribe. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.